Markets are often described as free. Anyone can participate, anyone can buy or sell. Prices are supposed to move naturally, guided by supply and demand. In this version of the market, no single person is in charge. Rules apply equally. Outcomes are shaped by collective behavior. This idea sits at the foundation of modern finance, but markets have never been completely free. From the earliest trading hubs to modern digital exchanges, markets have always required structure, rules, gatekeepers, enforcement. Without structure, markets don't function. They collapse into chaos. Markets collapse not because prices move, but because failures spread. A single bad trade rarely matters. A single failed investor rarely matters. What matters is connection. Modern markets are tightly linked systems. Every participant depends on someone else fulfilling an obligation. When one link breaks, pressure transfers. That pressure doesn't move slowly, it accelerates. One missed payment creates doubt. Doubt causes withdrawal. Withdrawal removes liquidity. Liquidity is what allows markets to function. Without it, even healthy assets become dangerous. This is why markets have always been controlled, even when they appeared open. Control wasn't designed to stop losses, it was designed to stop cascades, and every layer of market structure exists for that reason. Even centuries ago, markets were controlled. In ancient trade centers, merchants were restricted by guilds. In early stock exchanges, participation was limited to members. In commodity markets, prices were enforced by authorities. Control has always existed, it was simply less visible. In 2021, one event forced millions of people to confront that reality again. An event that revealed markets are not controlled by participants, they are controlled by the systems that support them. This is the story of who controls the market. Most people experience markets only at the surface. They open an app, they place an order, they see a confirmation, they watch prices move. From that perspective, the market feels immediate and personal. But what happens on the screen is only the final step in a much larger process. Accessing markets today usually starts with a platform, and not all platforms are built the same. Uphold is a digital financial platform that provides access to cryptocurrencies, precious metals, and global currencies, all in one place. Instead of focusing on speculation, Uphold emphasizes transparency. Users can see where their assets are held, how trades are executed, and what they actually own. In a financial system built on layers and intermediaries, that kind of clarity matters. If you want to learn more about how platforms like Uphold provide access to modern financial assets, you can find a link in the description. What most people don't see is the structure underneath. Modern financial markets are not single environments. They are layered systems designed to manage risk at scale. At the lowest layer are retail traders, individuals making independent decisions, usually with limited capital. Retail traders do not interact directly with exchanges. Their orders go to brokerages. Brokerages act as access points. They collect orders, they route them, they provide user interfaces. But brokerages do not eliminate risk, they pass it along. Behind brokerages are market makers. Market makers exist to provide liquidity. Their job is to make sure there's always a buyer and a seller. They do this by taking the opposite side of trades. When someone buys, the market maker sells. When someone sells, the market maker buys. This reduces friction. It keeps prices moving, but it also concentrates exposure, because market makers absorb short-term imbalance. Above market makers are hedge funds and institutional traders. These entities operate at a different scale. They use leverage, they borrow capital, they deploy strategies that depend on probability, speed, and volume. One of those strategies is short selling. Short selling is a structured bet against price. A trader borrows shares, sells them immediately, and hopes to buy them back later at a lower price. If the price falls, the difference becomes profit. But if the price rises, losses increase rapidly. There is no upper limit to how high a price can go, which means, in theory, losses can be infinite. All of this activity exists under the oversight of clearing houses. Clearing houses are the least visible and most powerful institutions in financial markets. They do not trade. They do not speculate. They exist to guarantee settlement. Their role is to ensure that every buyer receives what they purchased and every seller gets paid. If one party fails, the clearinghouse absorbs the shock. To do that, clearinghouses demand collateral, capital posted in advance, margins designed to protect the system. This is where real control begins. Because collateral requirements determine who can participate, how much risk they are allowed to take, and when activity must slow or stop. Most of the time, this system runs silently. Trades clear, accounts settle, no one notices until pressure builds. In early 2021, GameStop became one of the most heavily shorted stocks in the market. At one point, more shares were sold short than actually existed. This wasn't illegal, but it was fragile. It depended on stability, on predictable behavior, on the assumption that prices would keep falling. When retail traders began buying aggressively, that assumption failed. As prices rose, short sellers faced growing losses. To limit those losses, they had to buy shares. That buying pushed prices even higher, which forced more buying. A feedback loop formed. This is known as a short squeeze. But what happened next wasn't just a price event, it was a systemic event. As volume exploded, market makers needed more capital to remain solvent. Clearinghouses raised collateral requirements, not as punishment, but as protection. Brokerages were suddenly required to post enormous amounts of capital to keep trades clearing. This created a liquidity crisis, not insolvency. Liquidity. The system didn't lack assets, it lacked immediately available capital. When capital becomes scarce, access must be reduced. This is the moment when control became visible. Trading restrictions were not emotional decisions, they were mechanical ones. Brokerages were not choosing winners or losers, they were responding to clearinghouse demands. Clearinghouses were responding to systemic risk. The goal was not fairness, the goal was survival. This is the moment where public perception and system logic diverge. From the outside, intervention feels sudden, unexpected, unfair. But inside the system, it is the final step of a long process. Risk is measured constantly, exposure is tracked continuously, limits are tested silently. When volatility spikes, calculations change, collateral requirements rise automatically, capital demands increase mechanically, tolerance disappears quickly. At that point, decisions are no longer discretionary, they are enforced. Intervention feels emotional to participants because it happens at the moment of maximum stress. But structurally, it is the system doing what it was designed to do: protect itself. This pattern is not unique to GameStop. What made GameStop feel different was not the mechanics, it was visibility. Most market stress happens quietly. Margin calls occur behind closed doors. Liquidity shortages are resolved privately. Risk is absorbed without public attention. GameStop unfolded in public. Millions of people watched price movement in real time. They watched access change in real time. They watched rules tighten in real time. This created the impression that something new was happening, but structurally, it was familiar. When too much leverage builds on one side of a trade, the system becomes fragile. At that point, even small movements can trigger large reactions. This is why markets favor institutions with capital. Not because they are smarter, but because they can survive volatility longer. Endurance matters more than precision. In financial systems, survival is power. Those who remain solvent during stress gain influence over those who cannot. Risk moves down, authority moves up. By the time participants notice, the outcome has already been decided. Markets do not fail dramatically, they contract. This contraction creates the illusion of interference, but what is actually happening is enforcement. Markets are not designed to feel fair in moments of stress, they are designed to endure. That endurance depends on institutions that can absorb shock. Banks, clearinghouses, central counterparties. These institutions do not respond to emotion, they respond to risk. Participants influence prices. Infrastructure defines limits. That distinction defines control. GameStop did not expose corruption, it exposed structure. The market behaved exactly as it was built to behave. It protected itself. This leads to a deeper realization. Markets are not democratic systems, they are hierarchical systems. Access exists within boundaries. Those boundaries are enforced by capital requirements, settlement rules, and risk thresholds. Entities closest to the infrastructure have the most control, not because they conspire, but because they are responsible when systems fail. This is why stability is prioritized over access. This is why trading can be paused, why requirements can change without notice, why rules become flexible under stress. True control is not exercised through individual trades. It is exercised through the authority to define acceptable risk, through the power to demand collateral, through the ability to decide when activity must slow or stop. Those decisions are invisible most of the time, but they shape every outcome. This is why financial systems feel open during calm periods and restrictive during crises. Freedom is conditional. Understanding this changes how markets should be viewed. Markets are not arenas, they are machines, and machines operate within tolerances. When those tolerances are exceeded, the system intervenes. That intervention is control, not by traders, not by prices, but by the institutions that manage risk and decide when the limit has been reached. That is who controls the market.